promotion.
Yes, however, I do, as just a general point of discussion, and to see if anyone's interested at all in this, alternative B1, which expands the blue zone, so that has more blue. If we removed the pink, but we had more blue, how would people feel about that? Do you understand kind of what?
Yes. That's because the blue in this expanded zone is on the side streets. Could be up to 4 stories. I would support that.
So are you saying the blue is one parcel in? Are you saying?
It's 250.
Well, no, the blue is wherever it's shown on B1. Yeah. So it's sometimes facing the avenue, but they have also included a couple others that are on the side streets. So
can I clarify what? I apologize for cutting in. Are you proposing that we increase the height limit in the pink areas from 3 stories to 4 stories?
No, I'm suggesting, for the sake of discussion, the alternative B1, which has an expanded blue zone. And I'm saying, what if we went with that larger blue zone, but we scaled back the pink in this version much more?
But how would you expand the blue zone?
It's already expanded in this version. So if you compare this one to the A1 and 2, there are more lots are shaded blue.
I see Claire's hand, so let's go to Claire first, and then I have a thought as well.
I just have one question here, and that is that this is a really interesting idea to me, and that is that we would have to think carefully about whether that side street parcel would be subject to the incentives that we've set up for what we're talking about on Mass Ave, because I don't hate the idea of 4 stories right behind, but 6, the ability to go all the way up to 6 right behind seems a lot to me.
Right. No
and I think we had said previously when we talked about the idea of B1 in general that only Mass Ave or Broadway would be eligible for any bonuses.
Yes, that's my understanding.
However, it would open up the possibility of combining lots. And so if one of those smaller ones was combined with a Mass Ave or Broadway lot, then it could be bigger.
Yep.
And then it could be eligible.
Then it could be eligible.
I'd like to offer a slight amendment, which is not to take...
Sanjay, Steve has his hand.
Sorry.
I have we'll be talking about height bonuses, earlier in the meeting, Mr. Liddell suggested height bonuses only for parcels at front, Mass Ave and Broadway. No height bonus behind. Is there value in having like a thin pink layer to provide like a 4 to 3 step down?
Well, so my thinking is that we already essentially have 3 stories.
Okay.
Because they all the houses go up to 35 feet, and most are built out to 35 feet, usually under a pitched roof, but probably dormers on both sides.
Well,
so we're already it's already almost 3 stories, right?
Well, and actually it's probably 40 because that was the rule years ago.
Was it 40? No, I think it was 35.
No, it was 40 until 1975.
Okay, so right, okay, so whatever. So we already have that. So the 3-story sub-district is kind of neither here nor there.
Okay.
So, which is why I think in this scenario we could eliminate it.
Okay.
So my slight change I was going to suggest is rather than just exactly taking off the pink that's in here, we make sure that we're keeping at least 1 parcel all the way down. So, I'm thinking behind some of the commercial along around Capitol Square and along that, just to sort of make the continuity job a bit easier and to keep ourselves a bit honest about providing that transition. So it would remove the pink, except we would turn some of those pinks into blues in a place where there is, where there is not something
where we need continuity.
West of Marion Road, where all the pink is back right up onto that commercial.
Correct, and like between sort of like Lake Street and Edgerton and, you know, that sort of.
Right.
Right.
What is your proposal then about Broadway? Or the streets off Broadway?
We could remove the pink there too.
Okay.
So we could remove the pink on this whole alternative B1 map.
As long, well, remove it and presumably move it to,
But still, Matthew is going to have to figure out the
Right,
continuity.
the continuity.
Continuity.
Yeah.
It's kind of thing, but let's leave that as a sort of more detailed
Okay,
design
yeah,
problem to be
right.
sorted out.
So the motion is to remove all the pink on this B1 map except where we need to add blue because there is nothing separating the neighborhood from a commercial property.
Can you say that again?
So the motion is to remove all of the pink in this map except adding blue where there are lots that abut commercial property. So if you remove all the pink and now the commercial is directly in the neighborhood, we would have one lot that is blue. So you'd have a little more blue in here than you currently do.
What?
Yeah, so we'd have to see it, but yes, sort of theoretically.
So like here, right? If we get rid of all this pink, then this commercial property is backed right up onto whatever is there.
Yeah.
So we would put this blue, this blue, this blue, this blue. Because that's what the lots are that abut those commercial properties.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessary, but
Well, that's what he's proposing.
Yeah, that's what
just
he's
clarifying what
yeah,
he's being proposed.
I'm not sure that that's necessary to do, and then it gets a little, you know, fidgety.
So instead, you might have to have the motion be take out all the pink except where, in order to have a contiguous area, we would need to add back in, and what we would add back in would be blue or pink. Would be blue because 4 stories is really
It
no
would be
different
blue.
than
Yeah,
3
it would
stories.
be blue. But we'd want to review that again and make sure.
Right. Well, there might be specific lots.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you know, let's remind everybody, the ARB is going to take another pass at this, right? And is going to make some, you know, if there's a fine refinement that needs to be done. Okay, so I think we have our motion then, right? We are voting on using the blue from the alternative B1 map as shown here, with the understanding that things that are on Mass Ave would be eligible for bonuses. Things that are not on Mass Ave would be ineligible for bonuses, and that we are going to add back anything that we need to keep things as a blue, anything that we need to keep things contiguous around the commercial properties.
That's the motion.
Do we
What
have?
about
Okay,
Broadway? Wait, Sanjay, what about Broadway? You
Oh,
said everything
sorry.
contiguous to Mass Ave.
sorry,
Broadway.
sorry. And Broadway. My mistake. Thank you for the sharp ear. Mass Ave and Broadway. Do we have a second?
To my motion.
Oh, I think you sort of kind of already seconded that, Rebecca. But we changed
It's
it
a
a bit.
joint motion and second from Meta and
Okay,
myself.
all right.
Great.
I don't know how Steve captures that in the minutes.
Yeah. I can motion it, you can second it. Is that okay?
I'm happy.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll go around. Vince,
no.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Shayna,
No.
Meta,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. So that motion carries.
So the negatives were Vince and Shayna.
Shayna.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, folks. That was a very busy section of the meeting. I appreciate the hard work and the collaboration that we all just went through there. I know that was a tough section of meeting, so I appreciate it. We do have several other decisions that we need to make here. So let me just run through my list of what we need to do. We've, I think, very clearly handled the buffer distance, right? That question, or the distance we're going from Mass Ave. One thing that we do need to make sure we understand is whether Broadway and Mass Ave have all of the same requirements or not. Right, we have had discussions previously about different requirements for Broadway and Mass Ave, and so we need to make a decision about that this evening. The other things that are on our list, we need to make sure that we've confirmed what our neighborhood district story limit is. We need to confirm whether we are setting just a story limit or whether we are setting a story and a height limit. And then we need to confirm our bonuses. So if I'm interpreting from our last meeting correctly, I think we were very favorable to both the affordable housing bonus that we heard and the sites, / open space bonus that we got a memo from David Morgan and Claire about. But we didn't formally adopt those, and so I think we should either formally adopt or reject those. Yeah, so I want to make sure we got 35 minutes, and let's. I think actually we have probably agreement on some of these, and so maybe we can move quickly through a couple of them. I'm going to actually suggest that we start with the bonuses because I thought I heard a lot of agreement on those last week. Can we start perhaps with the sites open space bonus? Are people comfortable with the suggestion? And I'll quickly review, and Claire, you can correct me if I misspeak, just for folks who are watching who may not have been at our meeting last week. This is a certification program that is similar to, and actually back under the same umbrella as LEED, but is more focused on outdoor and open space rather than the inside the building envelope. And so the proposal is to grant an extra single story on Mass Ave or Broadway if a project is Sites Gold certifiable. Do we have any discussion on this?
I'll make a motion that we adopt that.
Second.
Great. Let's go around. Vince.
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Shayna.
Yes.
Meta.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. And then lastly, I believe we have not lastly, I wish. Next, we have the affordable housing bonus, which again, I think I heard anyway, we'll test that. Pretty wide consensus on the nice proposal that Shayna and Laura brought us. So Shayna, do you want to just very, very briefly remind us of what that was for folks who may not have been with us?
Yep. In short, the town will reach out to the state to request that we are able to go back to our 10%, to our 15% inclusionary requirement. So that's part one. Part two is that for properties that include 7.5% affordability above that 15%, so 22.5% affordable units at 60% area median income. Those buildings can have one extra floor. And for properties that include an additional 2.5% affordable units on top of that, so a total of 25% affordable units, those properties can go up one more floor. So 2 floors bonus for 25% affordable units, 1 floor bonus for 22.5% affordable units.
All at 60% AMI.
All at 60% AMI, which is the same area median income requirement as the inclusionary zoning.
And
Thank you very much.
did you do any more thought about smaller units?
Yeah, I did look at it and assuming that we required at least one additional unit per floor to get that floor bonus, it actually makes basically no difference for buildings under 20 units with rounding or with rounding, we would have to go up to 12 to 15% boost per floor for small buildings. So you'd have to require 30% affordability to get your 1 floor boost and 45% affordability to get your 2 floor boost in for a unit that ended up being 12 units total.
So not really feasible.
So, well, it kind of doesn't matter. There's no, not
feasible
matter.
smaller.
Well, no, if you, on a 12 unit building, you can, on a unit that would be, or on a building that would be 8 units at 4 stories, it can get the boost. It can get the boost by adding one unit per floor, and it actually improves the financial feasibility of property, and it doesn't really matter. Lower the percentage affordability down to 2.5%, increase it up to 15% per floor. Doesn't matter, because you would have to, in a 12 unit, in a 10 unit building, right? Two units per floor is a pretty high percentage.
So I think, I just want to clarify, are we saying that we will have a minimum of 1 additional affordable unit in order to get the bonus
Yes,
for each floor?
for each floor.
May I make a request that we vote on the big building, small building proposal separately, just for clarity?
Yeah.
So
Well, is it
to clarify, the proposal is the same
Oh,
for
okay.
all building sizes. We had talked about would a different affordability requirement for small buildings make a difference for small buildings? The answer is no.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the clarification from last week is that in order to be eligible for the bonus, each floor must add at least 1 additional affordable unit. I think that's what we're saying,
Yes.
right?
That's
Great.
right.
Okay. So, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Great. And do we have a second?
How about?
No, that's perfect. That's what it's for. Do we have a second?
Wait, a second. But I have a clarifying question, another clarifying question. We're talking about the Mass Ave Broadway multifamily district.
Correct.
Both streets. Okay.
This is touching Mass Ave or Broadway.
Right.
Great. Let's take a vote. Vince,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Shayna,
Yes.
Meta.
I'm going to abstain only because I didn't fully understand and haven't had time to think about it.
Sure. Steve.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Thank you, Shayna and Laura, for the work on that. Great. Let's see. What we have left is height and story limits. Story limits, I believe, we have settled along Mass Ave. The question is whether we want a different story limit on Broadway, and then the second question is, do we want to set height limits up in here as well? So who had thoughts on this that we might like to open the discussion? Steve.
So I will motion that we have a height limit of 4 stories by right before bonuses are applied for the Mass Ave Broadway district.
Second.
Second.
Great.
I think we've already voted on this.
Just
so-
a point of order, we've already voted on this.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so then I think we perhaps maybe just don't need to vote because is anybody offering a motion of something different?
Are you saying, Vince, that we voted on this in a previous meeting?
Yeah.
I believe
This
I'm
is
saying, yes, we've already decided this.
Okay, so we're
This
not
is-
changing.
Okay.
This is the base proposal. It sounds like I'm not hearing a motion to change that at all, and so thank you, Vince. We don't need to vote. Okay. Any thoughts on adding a height limit or anything along that lines? There was some discussion last week about what if people build 30-foot stories? Yes, Vince.
My understanding, and I may have misheard, is that DPCD or UTL was going to kind of come back with a slightly refined proposal or based on last week. I'm curious if there's a recommendation, I guess, from the planning staff as to whether it would be better to have both a story limit and a height limit or not, or what are the advantages and disadvantages.
So
Claire or
currently,
Matthew, yeah. Go ahead, Claire, sorry.
I can start. Currently in the zoning bylaw, we define both stories and feet. We say it can be 6 stories or 70 feet, and that is the maximum. So it's double currently in the ZBL, and I think that's by design. This is sort of why I wanted to talk about this evening. Are we, going to settle on stories, and if so, what does that mean for the urban design? Is there something we want to set the first, the first floor at a different ceiling height? Is this, how do we want to consider overall, vertical feet with regard to stories?
Meta has a,
Okay.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I think we want to define both ultimately, and typically the first floor, if you're going to have commercial, needs to have a taller ceiling height than what residential would need. I don't know what the right number is. In my quick calculation, it's at least 45 feet, but for a 4-story, but maybe 50. But do we already have? I mean, this should be a known thing. This isn't something we should just make up. This should come from other precedent sources.
If I could, Matthew, early on, I think we actually defined these in feet, and I think we moved 2 stories in order to simplify our conversation because not all of us necessarily could translate between feet and stories. Do you maybe have those original feet that you used? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I don't. But I think Meta's right that 4 stories, if you want to get viable commercial on the ground level, is about 45 feet.
Okay.
You need about, rule of thumb, 15 for the ground level and approximately 10 for the above. It might end up like 14 and 10 and a half and 10 and a half and 10 and a half. But if we're interested in something that is feasible, that's the rule of thumb that I would follow.
Okay.
If I may even add, go ahead, Steve, I apologize.
I was going to say as one simplifying assumption I've seen is just 13 feet per floor
As an average.
as an average. Yeah.
Comes to 52.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to give it a little bit more than 45. I think that's the absolute minimum, and so I think 50 would be fine. Somewhere in there, 52, 50.
Yeah.
I think 45 is a little too tight.
Because it's industrial zoning, but we do use 13 feet
Okay.
as a basis.
Well, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that because then we don't have to figure it out for 4 stories.
Right.
6 stories.
Exactly.
They can just divide it up as they want.
Exactly.
I feel like 10 is not enough.
So
It's
13
pretty
feet.
minimal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 13 feet per story is motion to have 13 feet per story.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll go around. Vince.
I'll vote yes, and I'll just add that I'm willing to give UTL a little bit of leeway here to use their judgment. But that's a yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Shayna,
Yes.
Meta,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay, great. We have that decided. Do we have? So, Matthew,
So
could
what
you?
is the height on Broadway?
Oh.
Or
Is
the
that
number
the
of
same?
stories on
It-
Broadway?
Oh, the number.
Four.
Four.
It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's 4, right?
Yeah.
We did
That's
not
what we-
vote to change anything on Broadway.
With bonuses.
Oh,
I thought we had maxed out the bonuses on Broadway to 5.
That is my recollection.
That
That-
is true. That is the
So
base
I thought that was
scenario.
the question that really needed to be decided.
Yes.
How many, are we gonna stick with our 5 or go to 6?
Well, if we stick with 5, then we're only giving 1 floor for mixed use, and that's probably not gonna get us mixed use.
But it might get us affordable.
It'll get us a good chunk of affordable. Now I'm really getting behind that 7.5% for the first story.
I'm okay with sticking with 5 for Broadway.
I'm also, because I'm actually not that interested in encouraging commercial along Broadway, I'd like to see Mass Ave be the primary commercial corridor.
I agree with that. Okay.
Any further discussion?
So it's a 4 stories is the base with only 1 bonus story allowed
On Broadway.
on Broadway.
Is that the vote we've already taken, or do we have
That
to take that
is the
vote?
base scenario. We don't have to take another vote for that.
Right.
Great. Thank you for clarifying, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Okay. What we do have to, or could you, Matthew, take us back to the base scenario? I just want to double check what we had in there for the neighborhood as the height. And I just wanted to see whether we, okay, in the base scenario, we have 4 stories as the max height in the neighborhood. I'll open for discussion on whether we wanted to change that.
I thought that's what,
Or did we change that last week?
I thought when we decided on removing all the pink, we basically were agreeing to 4 stories.
In East Arlington.
That's only in East Arlington.
Oh, in East Arlington. Oh,
So the
right.
west of Pleasant Street.
street that we have to think about. Oh.
Well, last week we discussed staff's memo proposing 3.5, and I walked away from that feeling. We didn't take a formal vote, but I walked away feeling like we had kind of decided to stick with 4.
Yeah, I thought that too, because
Great.
Ken spoke very strongly against the benefit of 3.5.
Great.
In fact, there was no benefit to 3.5.
Great. I just wanted to double check whether there were any motions since we didn't formally do anything on that last week. It doesn't sound like there's a motion, so we'll stick with what we have. So the neighborhood
4 stories, no
will be
bonus.
4 stories, no bonus.
Okay.
For all
Okay.
neighborhoods now, actually, right?
Yep.
It's a lot easier if it is 1 requirements.
It is.
I'm in favor.
Actually, then we don't need to have a sub-district.
We don't.
It's all 4 stories, and only if you're fronting on Mass Ave or Broadway do you get a bonus.
Exactly.
Correct.
And you'll be blue then, right?
It'll all be blue.
It'll all be blue.
Except for the setbacks.
What's
Yes,
that?
the side
change.
setbacks are different currently.
That could be written in the code rather than, color coded.
Right, so I actually
I
need
don't
to know what we
understand.
want to write in the code.
Yeah.
So the Mass Ave Broadway districts, we had adopted 5-foot side yard setbacks,
Oh.
and the neighborhood had
Oh,
10.
the setbacks, not the height, sorry.
Yeah.
We switched to setbacks and I missed that word.
Now,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
I think if I may interject, right? We have a couple of other things I just
Okay.
want to make sure we talk about, and I think we can leave the color and that sort of stuff. We'll leave to you, Teal, about. I mean, it's an interesting discussion, but I think we don't necessarily need to decide that as a working group. We can color code between town meeting and now. We need to know what we are proposing. I think if that's okay with folks.
And are we meeting next week? Is that something we can just talk about that?
We can certainly, yes, I do believe we will be meeting next week. I think we have some report things to get done. Before we get to that though, I want to double check whether I have missed any decisions that need to be made. So I'll ask Claire or any of the other staff that are in the room, have I missed any decisions that we need to make tonight?
Permeable surface requirements and non-applicability of usable open space requirement.
No,
That's okay? That's all
Yeah, I don't
set?
think we have anything to
Okay.
decide there.
Personally, Sanjay.
Claire, did you have,
Where did we land on
Claire.
parking?
where we landed on parking, was no change.
Okay.
Yep.
But I
That's my whole
actually
list.
want, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Lauren, yep.
I just wanted to also say that, we have, with mixed use, we have a commercial. The way mixed use deals with parking is the first 3,000 feet or not, they're exempt from the parking requirement, and after that, you have to, meet the parking requirement, and we could just follow that and do that, or we could say no parking is required for the commercial, that would be even more of an incentive, I think.
Do you have a motion? or a suggestion?
Yeah, I'll move that we have no parking requirement for the commercial and mixed use buildings, because, people can park on the street during the day. The commercial uses can use street parking.
I second.
Great. Any further discussion before we go for a vote? I don't think I see any. Vince,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Shayna,
Yes.
Meta,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Great. We have about 15 minutes left. Let me just double check my agenda here and Claire. I think we'll leave that to the ARB.
One part, you're accepted.
Let me see. Discuss. Okay. I think, Claire, unless I've missed anything, let's move quickly. We're going to discuss about meeting next week. And then I want to talk a little bit about the report and starting to, or really get that written. So I have, just in terms of the report, Rebecca and myself have, and I think Steve added a few suggestions of what those sections are going to look like, about, the story we need to tell about our process, and about, what we've heard from, how we went about talking to the community, what we heard from the community, the decisions that we made, and then, what this final product is. I think we also need to do some education on the different components of what's here and how it, connects to the law and connects to, what we heard in the thing. So I'm going to be contacting folks over the next week to be involved in writing different pieces and parts of that. I know, we've touched on different things. I don't think we need anybody to write any huge stuff. But I would look to sort of, as an example, to Shayna and Laura to maybe be willing to write the section on our affordable housing bonus. Looking to maybe Steve to write the section on, what we heard from the community, because you put together a lot of those previous reports on that. Things like that. If you have a particular topic that you'd like to cover, please reach out to me after the meeting, and I'm happy to help divvy up those things as well. And I think on that note, I think, next week we can sort of look at the finalized version here based on the decisions that we've made. Claire and Matthew, is that a realistic thing for us to do next week?
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, great, excellent. And then I think we'll talk a fair amount about writing the report and what needs to be included and not included, and making sure we're on the right track for there. Does that sound right to you, Claire, as well? I see it thumbs up. So thank you.
Sanjay, if I could ask a quick question. I'm sorry I don't have the raise hand function as hidden
No.
from me. I just want to confirm whether, with respect to the central, the western portion, that we are going to keep the same setbacks or adopt the 15-foot front setback as we are on the other side,
We are adopting the 15-foot front setback.
all around.
The 15-foot front front setback is universal as part of this proposal.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yes, and feel free, please do reach out to Claire and staff or whoever you need to if there's any other clarifying questions like that.
We never had a further vote on whether we wanted to extend all the way to the Lexington line.
We didn't.
You given that up?
I would like to motion that we extend all the way to the
I
Lexington
would
line.
too. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I'm.
You want to motion it or?
You can.
Okay, I motion we extend the center heights all the way to the Lexington line.
Clarifying question, would it loop around behind the area that is currently ARB?
Yeah, it has to go all the
Yes,
way
it
around
would,
here. But there's a lot of single family back here.
Yeah.
So it would be contiguous all the way around
Yeah.
behind that and continue.
Yeah. And would therefore support the commercial there.
Right. And just on just on that one side, not on both sides.
The other side has the bike path
If
and the
possible.
park, right?
Right.
I don't know.
We
I don't know
had
what's
it there
on the other side.
We had it there before at some point.
That's why I suggested around Lowell Street earlier.
Right.
Where's,
I have
Where's the
old maps.
It's tricky to.
Sure.
so,
And I think we're going to run into continuity problems because of the.
Well, I would say you
Because of the roads. Yeah.
see what they could do. But
That's fine.
everything doesn't have to be contiguous. It's only like 50% has to be.
Right.
So
If the East Arlington is, if I get it contiguous and it's 50%, that's fine. I could break this up so long as each chunk is at least 5 acres.
Okay.
This is a little bit of a funny moment right here.
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right there. And on
Agreed.
the other side is the problem, right?
But we'll try it.
Great. Well, we haven't voted yet, but I think we know what we're voting on at least, right? And I think we're included in this. If we vote for it, is a little bit of discretion to UTL to make it work, right? I think we've given the division of what we're suggesting in the vote. So let's go ahead and vote. Vince.
Sorry, before we vote, I was trying to just understand clearly. Are we looking south or north of the Minuteman bikeway?
We are
Or
looking.
we're saying that UTL would decide because they're very different.
I believe we're looking primarily south because on the north, at least for a good chunk of it, it is.
A little creek.
And then we're giving UTL license to include things on the north if there are ways that it works.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Chair, there is a historic district, in that area on Westminster, that we probably want to avoid.
Yep.
On the north side, right?
Yeah, on the north side.
Can you move the map so that we can see all the way to the line?
It's cut off in their map.
Oh, it's
In the detail
sorry.
map, it's not there. Yeah.
That's as far as
Right.
it
See,
goes.
it's cut off in these, so we can't see it in the detail.
We tried this one because you can kind of see. Right.
Uh-huh. It's not very much.
That's not very much. And you have the herd park, and you have the reservoir, and you have the bikeway all on the north side.
I'm very willing to take the direction, right, that we need to just double check a couple of our other, along with Claire, right, and staff, double check a couple of our other things that have guided us and make sure we're not breaking those if we did this.
Right. The south side should have some area.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
that's the motion that Meta made and I seconded.
To continue on the south side all the way to the Lexington.
To continue on the south and north side, with
As much as
UTL figuring out what's feasible, especially on the north side, to the Lexington line.
On the north side.
Arlington Housing Authority, the Hauser Building and Drake Village.
Right, which is probably why
Rebecca,
Yes.
Laura,
No.
Shayna,
No.
No.
Meta,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
and I'm a yes as well.
so that was 4-3. And
Great.
the nays were Mr. Bedoin, and who else?
Laura.
And Lauren Chase.
Sorry.
Okay.
Great.
Sorry, that's a yay?
That is a yay.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, folks. All right. I believe we are ready for perhaps our first ever motion to adjourn that comes before 9 o'clock.
Sounds we've still got 6 minutes. Can you just remind me the schedule for the next couple of weeks?
So I think we will meet next week for sure to talk about report things and sort of checkpoint where we are on the report. We will also sort of just have a little update on this, on all the decisions that we made and make sure nothing looks totally different than what we expected. I'm hopeful that we won't actually make any substantive changes next week, but we should, it's the right thing to be thorough and review. And then I think after that, we probably need a little bit of a break, right? This will be packaged up and ready to go to the ARB. We'll have to formalize our report at some point and begin honestly changing into a sort of an advocacy mode and getting out and talking to different people both about our report and all of the things that have gone into this and getting ready to discuss with the ARB, with the public, with town meeting members about what's going on. So I don't have an exact schedule for you beyond next week. If folks have suggestions, I know that changing out of summer and into fall, we may need to make some revisions for people's, I know people's schedules change. We may not have to meet hybrid anymore. We can consider going back to meeting just in person. We can discuss those sorts of things. I think we should have time, hopefully next week, to see what people need to continue the work through to town meeting.
Just to summarize, can I say, so we're yes to the 15th, unlikely on the 23rd, 22nd, whatever the Tuesday is, 22nd. And then the next week is the ARB meeting, right? And
No.
will we have something for that?
They moved it to September 11th, is my understanding.
There's no meeting?
We're having not
Let's let Claire. Let's let Claire. I don't know the
It's
answer to it.
useful for us to know, because
Yeah.
I have a lot of plans.
Definitely.
Sure. So originally we had said their last meeting in August, which is their only meeting in August, which was on the 28th. But in order for me to get a draft or any of this pulled together, to get it over to the state, to MBTA communities for pre-adoption review, I want to give them some chunk of time to actually take a look at it. So we pushed back to the 11th to give the state a little more time for the pre-adoption review. And then we still haven't set a date for town meeting, but at least that's the schedule for the ARB right now.
Great. Thank you for that update, Claire.
Sure.
And Laura, I think your summary is correct that we will definitely meet next week. We will unlikely, but we'll see about the week after that. And then maybe since the ARB will not be hearing on the 28th, maybe perhaps we'll meet for a short meeting on the 29th to adopt our report, maybe if we're ready, and consider future things that we're ready to start doing. We need some educational materials for town meeting members, right? We've been so focused on building this, right? We need to now move to educating lots of people that are here, right? Lots of town meeting members that have paid various amounts of attention to this up until now. And continue our process of talking to the public. in lots of different ways. All right, Vince, we've fully, almost fully exhausted the 6 minutes, but it was good. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It was a good clarification for folks.
Got a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, let's take a vote. Vince,